Hello everyone, I wanted to make a video on mindful presence and values. I wanted to start off with defining what values mean. A lot of people mistake values for being goals. Values are not goals. Goals are our end kind of destination where we want to get to. Values are more of which direction we want to choose to get to our goal. Values help us with direction. Values are things like I value kindness, what's important to me, kindness, integrity, truth. These are some of the values that we have and guide us towards where we want to go. And what I've noticed with myself, clients, and just in general is that there are two ways we can go with values. Some people compromise on their values too much, and then they have disappointment in themselves. They're upset because they compromised on those values. They kind of let themselves down, so it affected their relationship with their self. And our relationships with ourselves are very, very important, okay? Because when we make a commitment to ourselves, or when we say we're gonna do something and we don't do it, that can bring up a lot of different emotions. It can bring up shame, it can bring up internal anger. So I've noticed that some people compromise too much on their values, and they forget what their values are. They forget which direction that they want to go in to, achieve their goals. But then there's also the other extreme, or the other end of the spectrum, when we are too rigid in our values. And what I mean by that is that we may have the value of telling the truth, but if we constantly tell the truth, sometimes that can be a harmful thing, right? So when you are rigid in truth telling and you just tell the truth all the time, no matter what the situation, what the circumstances are, and you want to just keep speaking your truth, that might be harmful at times. So really thinking about that, like, when are my values useful to give me a sense of direction, and when am I holding too rigidly to those values where I don't make any space for other directions that I can go in, other options of how I can act in these different situations. And so I believe a lot in the middle path, and the middle path is very much of feeling into rigidity, and which is on one end of the spectrum, and then feeling into too much looseness on the other, like too flexible, and feeling what the middle way is between rigid and too flexible, or too soft. And then seeing and coming from that energy, that's where you make, some of your decisions. But in order to do that, we have to become mindfully present and observe first. Like, observe how your values, what is important to you, right? Observe how those values play out in your life. Are you holding too rigidly to those values that you're not making space for other possibilities? And again, we're doing this in a non-judgmental way when we're observing that, and when you're not making space for those possibilities, what are you shutting the door to? And then on the other hand, are you too flexible with your values that you let yourself down? You continue to betray yourself, or self-abandon, as we call it, in therapy. Do we continue to self-abandon because we compromise constantly on our values, you know, and then we end up feeling really bad about ourselves and our decisions. So feel into that, you know, mindfully, you know, with presence, non-judgmentally, with a lot of kindness and compassion, and challenge yourselves to maybe even write a list of everything that's important to you, and which values you might be rigidly holding on to, and which values you might be a little bit too flexible on, you know, and we need to kind of enforce some of those values a little bit more. So I hope this helps. Again, please, any comments, any questions, please comment below. Thank you.